Well, I guess this is to the new prison break teachers coming in after me. Well, to start out, to briefly introduce the program is, as you know, 3 hours, broken up into 3 increments with a rest period in between. And generally for the first hour, what I did with the students was I focused on pronunciation and phonics. And you know, particularly Korean students, because at an early age they don't have a lot of practice speaking English. Their pronunciation tends to be wrong at times, so I recommend, you know, working on pronunciation for about an hour if possible. And what I did to work on pronunciation is I bought in some kind of phonics book and some phonics printouts from the internet, and I focused on a lot of the individual sounds, particularly R and L, because in Korean both of those sounds are the same, and so students have a great deal of difficulty distinguishing between those sounds. And also I focused a lot on F and P, because also, you know, Koreans have difficult time pronouncing those. And you know, then I also worked on compound words and so on and so forth. Starting out very basic and then moving along, and also, you know, when you're teaching students the correct pronunciation of the word, generally what you can do is you can have them pronounce the word correctly, and then also not only have them pronounce it, but have them use it in a sentence and use it with the correct pronunciation, because a lot of times students, they'll just learn a word and learn the pronunciation, and then just after class is over with, then so is the knowledge that they learned. So it's better to reinforce that, I think. And that's generally what I did the first hour. And then during the second hour, what I did is I did kind of a free talking or discussion based lesson. And generally I would bring in a short article. I used a book a lot of the times. It's called Let's Talk 1 and Let's Talk 2. It's for intermediate and advanced students. And generally this textbook I think works really well because the reading is not too long, and also they have different idioms and vocabulary that the students might not know. They have it underneath at the bottom, and they have the definitions written as well. And so it helps to reinforce the newly learned material. And so basically I would go through it with them, you know, correcting their pronunciation, which is very important, because if you don't correct their pronunciation, then they're just going to keep doing it wrong. And so it's really important you correct that. And go through the article and then check the comprehension, check the meaning. And then after that, there's a series of discussion questions that came along if I used the book. If I didn't use the book, then what I would do is use some kind of newspaper article or other free talking material, and what I would do is I would underline words from there, and I would make my own list of, you know, key vocabulary words, and then give them an example of the usage, and that's how I would generally do that. And then also, if you're not using a book and you're using your own material, generally you would want to make your own discussion questions ahead of time, and I would recommend going ahead and typing them up, because then the students would be able to see it as well and be able to write a response later, and generally just have more time to think about it. And then generally after we did this free topic, I would give them a writing assignment to write about the topic, and then come in the next day and I would correct it, and they would read their opinion about those things. And so therefore it's also reinforcing the material that we learned. And generally students, when they're giving their opinion, they don't really know a lot of correct words to use and what to say. And so a lot of times you'll hear, in my case, or as for me, and you'll hear those two expressions over and over again when students want to express their opinion. So what I would recommend is giving them a list of alternative choices for alternative situations, and that'll also help a lot with their speaking ability, I think. And generally that's what I did for the second period, and I tried to break it up based on different topics. And during a couple days I would focus on business, a couple days I would focus on, I don't know, some social studies topic, and move it along and use different topics during different periods, because generally students don't really have the chance to really express their opinions about a wide range of topics, and this is good for their vocabulary, and it's good for their confidence in speaking English. And so I think if you did that, that would work well. And moving along to the last part of class, generally we would play some kind of game. And generally the kind of games that I would use is I would use games where the students had to critically think and express their opinions in English. For example, I used one game which is called The Ark. And during this game there's a list of 12 people, and they have to choose from the list of people to go on some kind of trip or mission. And each person has their own positive or negative characteristics. And so using their own personal opinions, biases, and reasoning ability, they each choose their own, and then I make them as a group decide who they wanted to take and who they didn't want to take. And so generally those kind of games, which encourage the students to think in English and express their opinions, are generally better. I also used another kind of game where it was kind of a storytelling activity, where I would, or the students would make 2 or 3 sentences, and they would tell a story, and then the other students would add on to the story, and it would keep going around until we came to an end. And it's a good activity because you can use various topics, and you can also include a bit of fantasy, and the students can have a bit of fun in there as well. So I think those type of activities really work well when you're dealing with the games section as well. So I think that would also work too. And also from time to time what I did is I gave them a situational writing sheet. And so during this period what I would do is I would give them some type of a background story. And then the students would have to go ahead and make up their own story after that. And then I would check their stories and then have them read it out loud. And so also that works pretty good as well. But in general, I think that generally the most important things that I think you should focus on as a teacher, and just according to me, I think definitely one is correcting their pronunciation, like I said, and the second thing is you got to encourage the students to really speak their opinions. Because a lot of students will say, no, I don't know, or oh, what should I say, or something like that. When those situations occur, I think the best possible solution is to encourage them and just tell them to try and explain things in a simple, roundabout way, and that way they can convey their opinion more clearly. Generally those are the key points that I would focus on, and generally also, encourage them to think in English. I think a lot of Korean students, they learned English through Korean and they didn't learn English through English. And so one of the major problems with that is that constantly in their mind they're trying to translate everything, and they're trying to say, what is this in Korean, and then directly translate it to English. But it's clearly better if they think in English and express their opinions in English. And so I think if you clearly convey those points, it'll be beneficial both for you and for the students. All right. Thank you.